Welcome everyone to Stadium Journey's Obstructed Views, the show where a couple of guys in a couple of countries have a couple of beers and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we're excited to be here with you again tonight. Even if it's your first time, we're still excited to see you. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube channel, like the video, feel free to leave a comment or two. And absolutely check out stadiumjourney.com for all of our fantastic content. So let's get started. Dave, what do you got for a drink tonight?
So I did the unthinkable. I found the back of my fridge. So I needed something. So I headed down to the LCBO today, Liquor Control Board of Ontario. And I was going through, I was looking for a blueberry beer, to be honest, but I could not find one to save my life. So I was looking for then, Ontario beers that, appealed to my sense based on their name. So we got a nut brown ale from Silversmith Brewing Company, which is in Etobicoke, Ontario, where Joey Votto's from, which is just actually Etobicoke doesn't even exist anymore. It's now just part of Toronto. And it's kind of like a Guinness Light. It's not quite as heavy as Guinness. It's definitely brown. And it's definitely heavier than like a Pilsner or a lager or something like that. So I find that these are good beers when I'm talking, maybe not so much if I'm just sitting watching something. So since I'm going to be talking way too much today, it's good to go. What do you got?
What was that thing on the can, by the way?
What is on the can? It looks like a rabbit, actually. Actually, that kind of looks like a squirrel with rabbit ears. And
All right. Yeah, that's no wonder I couldn't recognize what it was.
I don't know. And this looks like a stained glass window.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, much like you, Dave, I am working my way to the back of my fridge, and I actually, with today's show, I think I got there. So what I've got today is from Ragged Island Brewing in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, nearby Portsmouth, Rhode Island, an Old Boys Vienna-style lager. You can tell it's Vienna style. I can't get the light off it, the reflection of the light off it, because of the fancy letters on the can.
It does look old.
Yeah. So I guess you have to be an old boy to drink. You have to be 21, right? So this beer is actually, for a lager, if you look, it's a little darker than your average lager, but still got that lager taste, that lager feel. And since we're recording this in August, lager is the way to go, I guess. So that's what I've got. If we were visiting today's destination, we might be drinking a Short Jorts, which is a cherry-flavored blonde ale from Pickett Brewing Company in Baltimore, Maryland, because today we're talking about Oriole Park at Camden Yards, home of the Baltimore Orioles. Before we get started, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals. Okay, we're talking about Camden Yards, the stadium that started it all. And by it all, I mean the stadium construction boom, the retro classic phase of Major League Baseball. Hard to believe, but Camden Yards is over 30 years old now. Is it 30 or is it over 30?
Either way, over 30. 1992.
92. So yeah, so it's 32. So either way, that's middle age for a ballpark. So how's the old place? The only facility to get a perfect score at Stadium Journey. We could debate that, but we're not going to. How's it holding up these days in middle age?
Well, in middle age, it's definitely the benefactor of the young guns coming up and playing like out of their minds and contending like the Orioles have not contended in a long, long time. And again, this is one of those asterisk ones. This is one of those, we were at the same game at the same time. And I know, we've both been at different times. I mean, for me, this was drastically different than the first time I went because
Oh, me too.
the Orioles were terrible the first time I went, and I saw Boston was there. It was like full of Boston fans. Terrible.
Maybe I was one of them. You never know.
And this time they were doing really well. It was sold out. The place was just packed. There was such a buzz. If you look at the picture that I have from our seats, like you cannot find much in the way of green anywhere. The green is on the field,
Yeah.
not much in the way of green seats. But yeah, it was the one that kind of started it all. Sort of. HOK is the company that designed and built this, and they started this retro classic ballpark phase with the minor leagues. The first one being the Buffalo Bisons in Pilot Field, and stretched from there. So, I mean, 30 years old, is it as good as it was, when it opened? Well, relatively speaking, probably not. There's definitely some areas that could use a little TLC. That we would notice that even those who are not, hardcore stadium weirdos who look at strange things like the color of the floor and where the pillars are in the concourses and that kind of stuff. The average fan is going to notice these things. That it needs a new scoreboard, needs a new sound system. Ouch,
That was the most noticeable thing about our
that was
visit
pretty
is the
bad.
sound was terrible.
Could use some more ribbon boards as opposed to static ads on the fascia between the decks. But other than that, it's amazing how winning will just sort of polish over the warts of any of any ballpark.
I mean, the things that made it great are still there and they're still great. But yeah, that's the thing about stadium building is everybody stole Baltimore's plan and tweaked it and improved on it. So now you go to Baltimore, you say, they're missing this, which is actually just they're not missing it. It's just something that came along after them.
So much of Baltimore, it actually kind of reminds me of Toronto. They don't look anything alike. They're so different, but there's just so much innovation in each park. So many just specific things that they're like, that's never been done before. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Baltimore the first park that incorporated an older building into the design? Like I can't think of one before that. I can think
Is Toledo older than Baltimore, or did it come along after?
I don't think Toledo was older. That one,
I
I'm
mean,
not
some places
positive on.
might have done it on a smaller scale, but to take the B&O warehouse building, which is that giant building behind that runs behind right field along Utah Street, that was clearly an innovation. It was funny when they were building the ballpark and they were talking about leaving it there. They kept talking about how this is the longest building east of the Mississippi. Now, I wouldn't think having a long building would be such a big deal. Tall, yeah, sure, tall makes sense, but who cares if you have a long building? And it's not very wide; it's very narrow. It's long and narrow.
Yeah. Yes,
But it
definitely.
was built along that area. For those of you who don't know Baltimore, that area. I mean, I lived in Baltimore in the late '80s, the mid to late '80s, when I went to college down there, and that area was a neighborhood that we were told on orientation to stay out of. So you know where I used to go. One of my favorite clubs was down right in that area. Dear departed Hammerjacks, which was the hair metal band concert venue. So I saw a lot of great bands back in the day. The site of Camden Yards, that used to be warehouses, train depots,
Yeah,
you know,
the
that
rail
sort of
yard
stuff.
was
It
right
was very
there.
industrial. Let's say it's very industrial. Um, the the bar, look, going way back in time, the bar where Babe Ruth's family Well, he was an orphan, so I don't know if it was. Well, it must have been his family. He wasn't always an orphan, right? I got to brush up on Babe Ruth's story, I guess. But
I
anyway,
feel that Babe Ruth was sort of left at the orphanage because he was too hard to handle.
or somewhere where he hung out anyway. It must have been a family deal. Is located where somewhere in center field. And the Babe Ruth Museum, for those of you who like that kind of stuff, is only 2 or 3 blocks away from the ballpark. It's an easy walk. So, yeah, very gritty kind of area before the ballpark arrived.
And
This
if
is
you're going to enter from the north side, like Babe Ruth's right there to welcome you.
piece of trivia about Babe Ruth statue there in the plaza. I almost couldn't think of the word. His glove is on the wrong hand.
Oh, really?
He has the wrong glove on. He was lefty. Did he throw left or did he throw right? See, once again, I don't have my Babe Ruth trivia ready. But anyway, the glove he has in that statue is the wrong hand.
Huh. I would have never known.
Yeah, so we were talking about the big, you talked about the big building being incorporated. That was news because it isn't inside. Technically, it's not inside the ballpark. Technically, it is outside the ballpark. And in front of the building, the warehouse building, is a plaza. It used to be Utah Street, which was an actual street. It's not Utah the state, it's Eutaw. And that has been since the construction of Camden Yards has been closed off to traffic. And any of you who have ever visited Camden Yards know what I'm talking about. And it's a pedestrian way now with some bars and restaurants and the Orioles team store there. And during the games, it is like when there's not a game going on, you can walk along Utah Street and check out the shops and stuff. When there's a game going on, it is closed off to the public and it becomes part of the ballpark.
I feel like that's another kind of innovation with that idea that the ballpark is not just the physical building, and we can move where our entryway is and where it's not. So if you're entering that side, which most people do, most people enter on Utah Street, either on the north or the south side.
Right.
All your security, everything is at the street level. Like you're not technically walking into the ballpark. You're walking down along Utah Street, but that's your entry point. And that's really
brilliant design.
It is. And I think they've done so much with it. Of course you have that iconic vision of the games counting down for Cal Ripken's streak, right? Like they would change the number every game, and I don't remember what it was, 4,000 something. Is that right?
I don't know.
It was a big number.
Yeah.
4
digits, whatever it was.
Yeah. They mark every home run that's hit to Utah Street. They mark
Do they still do that?
They do. They mark it with a little bronze plaque. Yep. Jackson Holiday just hit his first home run and hit it to Utah Street, and they marked it off. You could go to their website. You could see everybody who's ever hit out there, how far it is, who it's off of. And the more modern ones, they have video of each one.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Now,
a funny thing about those markers, only one ball has hit the warehouse in the air.
Okay.
So if you, for the things you have to look down as you're walking, bump into people. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. The night we were there, it would have been a bad thing because it was 100 degrees and everybody was really sweaty. But anyway, you bump into the right person, you might enjoy it. But only one plaque is on the wall, and it should come with an asterisk because it was actually hitting the home run derby during the All-Star game, and that was I believe it's Ken Griffey. As the only plaque up on the wall. So that's, you said you like to search out little things. That's definitely a searchable item.
Yeah, totally. I don't think that they included all the ones from the home run derby, but that would be definitely a unique one that would be worth commemorating. You got the Orioles Hall of Fame that's out there, which is kind of like, they have six retired numbers. So the Hall of Fame is like their kind of extended, presence where they induct 1 or 2 guys every year, and it's quite a long list. So there's a big wall where you can have a look at that. Dave,
some great names in the latter half of the 20th century baseball history there.
Oh yeah, they've gotten they've started a mural project where they paint a mural somewhere in the vicinity, that I didn't really notice when I was there, but in doing my research, it's given kind of a prominent spot on the website. And then once you actually enter in again on the north side and you're into like the ballpark proper that you would not be able to get in on a non-game day, they have a square out in front of or out behind center field. And when we were there, it was crazy. It was so packed. And in their square, they have 6 bronze statues, one for each of the
Yeah.
players and manager who have had their number retired. So
And that was a recent addition to the park, because for a long time that was just empty space with maybe some, I think it had picnic tables. Really wasn't used for a whole lot, but they've really made it, like you said,
tables kind of beyond that.
Yeah, they made it a really picnic area. When we went there, the game you're referring to, they had a band there, and it was wall to wall people and
you could barely get through. It was so crazy. But you're gonna find your Earl Weaver, the Robinson brothers, who aren't brothers, Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson.
You sure they weren't?
Pretty sure. Cal Ripken Jr., Eddie Murray, and Jim Palmer. Did I get everybody? I think that's.
I believe you did. I believe that's everybody.
And then of course
all those statues. Also, if you're coming in from the plaza on the north side, there are numbers in that plaza commemorating all of those players. So
yeah,
that's another nice photo op outside the ballpark.
Yeah. It's the brown brick, it's the green seats that we've kind of grown tired of, but
they did it first, so it doesn't count.
I guess. Well, not first, but they brought it back. Right?
First of the new generation.
Yeah, like Pepsi. They're the choice of a new generation.
I think for a while they didn't even do Coke or Pepsi at there. I think they were RC for a while.
Oh, really? Wow.
Not anymore, so don't go there looking for RC.
Not too many of those anymore. So yeah, it's when I went the first time, it just did not have the buzz. And we talked when you did the obstructed views on the Ravens, and you talked about how Baltimore was a football town. Man, that last game that we went to, the Orioles game, I was like, Baltimore's a baseball town. And
I don't know though. When the Ravens are hopping,
like
ooh, it's tough. Yeah, Baltimore's a really good sports town.
But with new ownership, and we've kind of complained about some of we didn't really complain a lot, but we said a few of the things that need help. They're getting $600 million, so they're getting help.
Some help is on the way, yes, sir. So, and I think, yeah, like you said, that's a lot of money for a new sound system. But I think there's a lot of improvements coming on, and the sound system and the video board are two of the things. Here's something that is new for those of you who have not been to Camden Yards in a while. Left field, they took out a couple of thousand seats and pushed the fence back in left field a few years back, which I hadn't been there since that change, and it really looked strange to me.
Okay. I can't say that I noticed.
The seats used to go like all the way down, and the outfield fence was maybe 5 feet tall. So now what they did is they took out a chunk to push the outfield wall back 20 feet, maybe 30 feet. And the wall is now higher because the first row of seats is now maybe 10 feet above the field. So that's a change. Another thing that debuted in Baltimore, the stacked bullpens.
Oh, okay.
Take that as something the average fan probably wouldn't notice. But instead of having like a bullpen over here and a bullpen over here, or they're both down the foul lines, they put one in the front and then one above it. So
I feel like the average fan is not going to notice the ones that are in the foul territory because the average fan might be younger than we are. And nobody seems to have those anymore.
No. Not many parks do, because it's not safe. And the guys in the bullpen warming up are blocking prime real estate. So
yes, for sure. We kind of skipped over Utah Street there, and another kind of big innovation. And maybe I got this wrong. I don't remember a player concession before Boog's Barbecue.
Yes, that was the first, the celebrity chef or whatever, the celebrity sponsor, whatever you want to call it, which is now a must in almost every new ballpark.
Yeah, it seems like
And
they
old
all
ones.
have them.
Fenway has one even.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Louis Tion's Cuban sandwiches.
Oh, sweet.
Although Louis up in his 80s now, so you don't get to see him too often. Or like in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, you don't see Manny Sanguillen very often anymore. But yeah, Boog started the trend without a doubt. And pit beef, definitely worth a taste if you go there. Pit beef is fantastic.
Now you had said that the neighborhood back in the day was pretty scary. And I'm not one to spend a whole lot of time in the neighborhood, other than I'm more of a drive-in, go to the game, drive out kind of person. So of course, M&T Bank Stadium is up the road. It's not very far at all. In fact, we parked by M&T Bank Stadium.
On the wrong
How?
side.
What else is? Yeah, the wrong side. How else is the neighborhood like?
So, well, I can't speak as an expert because my Baltimore looks quite different from my Baltimore days. But the arena, the Baltimore Arena, I don't know what it's called now, is a few blocks away. Probably one of the worst facilities in a big city of its size. There's a brand new casino that's not far beyond the football stadium. So that's there. I mean, even when Camden Yards first started, the neighborhood still wasn't a whole lot. There were some nice bars directly around the ballpark, and Pickles Pub is still legendary to a lot of fans. I was never a huge fan of Pickles Pub, but it's good for what it is. It's a dive bar. If you walk just a few blocks to the east, you've got the Inner Harbor. So if you're coming from out of town for the first time to Baltimore, you're going to want to check out the Inner Harbor. If you've been to Baltimore before, stay away from it. It's a tourist trap, but it's a pretty cool place still. That was the first step in the reclamation of Baltimore was the Inner Harbor project and taking just what was really a deserted place to really stay away from and turning it into an attraction. Fort McHenry Park is right there on the Inner Harbor as well. Now, my choice, if you're visiting the city, and if you're going to walk over to the Inner Harbor, keep walking right past it. A couple blocks past it on the other side is Baltimore's Little Italy, which is, for my money, one of the greatest Little Italies in all of the country. And a little farther beyond that is Fells Point. Those of you who might remember the movie Diner was filmed in Fells Point. It's a great working class neighborhood full of legendary bars and little restaurants and pubs and stuff like that. So the area around the ballpark has got options, no doubt about that. But also remember, it's a big city, and I've heard people complain that when you're making your way from the ballpark to the Inner Harbor, and it's the summertime, so you're going to come across some homeless people. I've never had a problem. I've never felt unsafe in the area, but it's a big city. There's always a danger. So, still a very, very good neighborhood. Very
Might
good
not
surrounding
be
area.
a walk you'd want to make after a night game.
I've done it. I've done it. It's
No?
it's
Okay.
okay. I mean, it's not stellar. Be aware of your surroundings, like any big city. Some of the historical areas of Baltimore, if you go up Charles Street, St. Paul Street, you'll find some of the other neighborhoods like Mount Vernon and so forth. Um, but yeah, if you're going in and out, right on the highway, can't get any easier than that. So the access is good. We were talking about Boog's Barbecue. Baltimore's got some fantastic stuff in the stadium. It's the only ballpark where I have ever ordered a crab cake, and it was really good. Let me tell you. Baltimore fans will swear that while you're there, you should have a Natty Boh, a National Bohemian. Don't get a good beer. If you like Schlitz, then yeah, Natty Boh is fantastic. But so yeah, there's a lot to see, a lot to do, and geez, how all the features that you come across in Camden Yards that you see in other ballparks. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, right? So ballparks all have their well, not all, but a lot of them have their own Utah Street now. Even Fenway Park has its own Utah Street now. Jersey Street was their way to copy it. The buildings, we talked about Toledo, San Diego have all incorporated the surrounding existing buildings into the ballpark structure. So much of what Baltimore pioneered, you see, not even just in the majors, but in stadiums everywhere, not just baseball. Have we missed anything, Dave? There's so much to talk about in Camden Yards.
I don't think so.
Last time I was there, man, we talked about food for a quick second. I had some crab tater tots the last time we were there. Oh, fantastic. I think it's a law that when you're in Baltimore, you have to have something with crab on it. So
Is that when you bailed on me?
it was just too hot and sweaty up there, man. So we took a walk and toured the ballpark, and then my back started hurting. So I was like, let's go out here. And we found an air-conditioned bar. We were talking about the bars on Utah Street. We went in. Used to be Dempsey's Pub. It's called something else now. We went in, hit the air conditioning, said, let's get a beer and something to eat. And we ended up being there for the whole rest of the game. So still had a great time though. So yeah, that's our look at Camden Yards, Oriole Park at Camden Yards, as it's properly known. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope we see you on the road again real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.